It was the summer of 2017, and I was on a road trip across the country with a few friends. We had planned to stop at various national parks, explore small towns, and enjoy the freedom of the open road. One of our planned stops was a small, remote town in the middle of nowhere, just to grab a bite to eat and stretch our legs. As we entered the town, it felt a bit off, quiet, almost too quiet. It had a strange, eerie atmosphere that we couldn't quite place. We stopped at a small diner on the side of the road, the only building that seemed to have any life in it. The inside was dimly lit, with a few dusty tables scattered around. The air smelled like old wood and grease. The waitress, an older woman, welcomed us with a warm but somewhat vacant smile. Her eyes seemed distant, as if she had seen too many things she shouldn't have. She led us to a booth and handed us menus without a word. The diner felt oddly abandoned, even though we were the only customers there. We ordered some burgers, and while we waited, we noticed something strange. There were several photographs hanging on the walls, some of them black and white, and others in color. They were pictures of the town, taken decades ago, but one thing stood out. There were several photos of the very diner we were sitting in, but in all of them, the place looked completely different. The tables and chairs were different, and there was even a different bartender behind the counter in some of the photos. We asked the waitress about it, and she simply said that was before the fire. Things changed after that. She didn't elaborate, and we didn't want to press her, but the comment felt out of place. It was clear that something happened here, but no one was willing to talk about it. Just as our food arrived, a group of locals walked in, an old man and a couple of younger people, all of whom seemed to have an odd, guarded air about them. They didn't acknowledge us, just took a seat at the far end of the diner. We continued to eat, trying to ignore the strange energy in the room. Then one of my friends, Mark, excused himself to go to the restroom. As he walked toward the back of the diner, he stopped and pointed to a door that led to what appeared to be a small storage room. There was an odd, heavy padlock on it. "What's in there?" he asked. The waitress, still standing near our table, froze for a moment. She gave him a sharp look before responding, "Nothing for you to worry about." Her voice was cold, almost threatening. Mark, clearly uncomfortable, shrugged it off and continued to the restroom. But when he returned, he looked pale and shaken. You need to see this." We followed Mark outside, and he led us to a small shed behind the diner, barely visible from the road. It was locked, but something was off. There was a window, but it was too dark inside to see anything. The air around it felt heavier than the rest of the town. We didn't know what was inside, but we all agreed it gave off a very strange, almost oppressive vibe. We quickly got back into our car, deciding that it was time to leave. As we drove out of the town, I glanced in the rearview mirror. In the distance, I could see the diner growing smaller, but just before the road bent out of view, I saw something in one of the windows. It was a figure standing still, staring right at us. We didn't stop to ask questions. We drove straight through the night, away from that town, and never looked back. Months later, we heard news about that small town. A fire had torn through the area some years ago, devastating several buildings, including the diner. There had been rumors about strange things happening in the town, about people disappearing and strange figures being seen in the windows of abandoned homes. The most chilling part, the locals had a habit of disappearing when outsiders came through, often warning them to leave before they became part of the town's unsettling history. No one really knew what went on in that diner before the fire, but a few people who dared to look into its past disappeared without a trace. To this day, I'm convinced there's something deeply wrong with that town and the diner we stopped at. Something beyond just a regular fire and some old photographs. Whatever it was, it wanted to keep its secrets hidden. I don't know if I'll ever know what happened.